Hello and welcome to a episode of the Euro vlog for November 2022. Small disclaimer, this video may well contain triggers as we do talk about suicide, anxiety, depression, as well as things like substance abuse and a range of mental health difficulties that people face every day. So please, if you do go into this, do just be aware and make sure you look after yourself before and after, especially if that means talking to someone else and getting their support. Now, onto the vlog. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Zero Right, the vlog for November 2022, discussing mental health, testicular and prostate cancer. I'm joined today by Tech Surgeon, who is another streamer in the content creator world. But before we go on and have our conversation, here's just a quick message. So what you're about to see is the vlog between Tech Surgeon and I, and it's been done in this way because he also has a series which is hopefully still running now. This video, funnily enough, that you're about to see was posted months ago by him. So do check him out on YouTube and on Facebook and on Twitter and stuff like that, as he's a very big advocate for mental health, trying to do the best he can to change anything, and actually make an active change. But without further ado, let's dive straight in to the vlog. On we go. Let's talk mental health.
There we go.
It's not as active as it should be. I mean, it's as active as it ever has been, but I think I'm finding more and more, the more that I kind of venture into the online space, that actually the awareness is really active, but not seen.
Yeah, and one of the difficulties I find as well is trying to get people to actually talk about it. You know, you'll see a lot of creators and gamers and streamers that they have the mental health tags and all the rest, but when you're trying to contact them to actually talk about it, to record things such as this, to raise awareness, it's so difficult.
It's almost like, yeah, and I don't think it's fake support. I don't think it'd be that at all. I think that there is a abstract difference out there between people being aware of mental health and people, being like mental health friendly as such, and people being an advocate for mental health. And there's
Exactly.
nothing wrong with being one or the other. But as we move on through time, we need as an organization, as a population, need to move from that, I'm happy to be aware of it, to I'm happy to have the conversation, because the conversation is the thing that'll make the change, not the thought.
Exactly. It's going to take more people like us to actually stand up and discuss mental health. Because, yes, there is a problem there, and there is certainly a problem with men discussing mental health. A lot, obviously, I'm in my 40s now, and we were brought up with you don't talk mental health, you don't talk, push it to one side, it doesn't affect you. That sort of mentality, which is something that does need to be changed. It does look like it's getting better, but there's still a long, long way to go, personally.
And while it is getting better, it's definitely getting better generational. I was brought up for me, when everything started to hit the fan and the world was exploding, or what felt like the world was exploding. I had a really supportive family. There was no like, you can't talk about that. That the taboo not necessarily wasn't there as such, I guess. But I was lucky that my parents were open to the fact that this could happen, and actually then I was able to go and seek support, where I'm aware that friends of mine have been in a very similar situation with this support revoked, like it doesn't exist for them, which, I think it shows that while it might be getting better, it's actually more like a case on case basis than like a, yes, this is better.
Yep. I think there's also still a north-south sort of divide in it as well.
See that?
Obviously, I grew up on a farming family, so, it was, just deal with it, get on with it. Tough love sort of scenarios. Whereas down south, it seemed to have a little bit of a different approach. Up here, it's all miners, was all miners, farmers, shipbuilders, all man's jobs.
Yeah,
You know,
manly men.
as it was, as it was seen. You know, big hairy oafs that drag the knuckles on the floor. But I shouldn't say that when I'm from up here, but you know.
Bit of it.
You know,
Go on.
sorry, it's like there's different ways of looking at it from where you come from. Certainly up here, the mental health support is it's slightly better than it was, but it's still nowhere near what it needs to be.
But I think you've hit the nail on the head there, you know, about the manly man jobs, you know, the things
Yep.
that you look and you're like, this is the job for men. They're normally the job that people become trapped, you know. I work in education. I'm very lucky that by working in education, I get quite a little bit of both sides. I get to also encourage the next generation, and hopefully on their side of things, I hope to make sure that
Yep.
they feel like they can talk and that sort of thing. I get to influence that and be an active part of that. Where I've got friends who still work in the engineering trade, and it is all the same. You know, that's a manly man job working in engineering. Being under the bonnet of a car, that's a manly man job. Doing X, Y, and Z, it's still a, you know, because we're still moving away from those sort of gender roles. But it's
Yep.
almost less acceptable than if you were working as a nurse or I'm gonna. It's not might not be a hairdresser. That's the one that came to my mind then. You know, and even as a bloke working as a barber, you know, you're allowed to chat and that sort of thing. But if it's what you would define or what could be seen as like a manly man job, like you know, your engineers, your heavy lifters, your farmers, your ship makers, stuff like that, then it's almost like it's completely frowned upon to have a bad day.
Exactly.
But
You
there's no
can't show any emotion.
no. But there's no. But why? What is the what is the difference? What is the major difference out there that isn't, you know, just built in
Yeah,
toxic
it's sort of like the
masculinity?
way, the way that people are brought up, obviously, and they then pass it down through the generations. So things are being passed on now from hundreds of years ago, and it's the times need to change. People need to understand, and then when people do that, it's like, oh, they're a snowflake, they're this, they're this. It's like, no, times have changed.
Yeah.
Slowly, and they need to change more than they already have. Obviously, yeah, there are some extremes in snowflakes that's way overboard, but then everything gets branded as the same thing, so there's still those stigmas there,
Mhm.
and those stigmas need to be broke down. Those
And
stigmas need to go, unfortunately, and the sooner the better, really.
but especially around, you know, when men are involved. I mean, you know, I've spoken about this several times previously now, especially on these sorts of calls, where the idea around men not speaking and that it's unsafe for men to speak is the literal only reason why men don't speak. You know, it's nothing to do with. Hang on, my Alexa decided to try and talk to me. You know, is roughly the reason why men decide not to speak is because they go,
Yep.
it is unsafe for me to speak. I'm going to be chastised to speak, and therefore
Yeah, the
I'm not
ridicule.
going to. But that stigma is built in for a lot of people at every level. You know,
Yep.
like people going to work and they can't go to their boss and go, listen, you know, here you go, real story, won't name anyone. Had a friend whose mate died, and he was scared to go and tell his boss that he was having a bad time and needed time off for the funeral and everything because the way his boss would have responded to him as a bloke. And you know, when you're there, look, this is literally grievance. You are going through a grievance and you are currently not in a happy space. Don't feel like the stigma's gone that you can actually grieve. You know, it's not like you've just lost your favorite toy. You've lost someone very important to you, very close to you in your life. And because the stigma around, he did in the end. But in the first place, he wouldn't go to his boss and be like, listen, I'm really struggling right now because I
Yep.
haven't had time to go and do this. Which, you know, and workplaces even have like grievance policies in where, you know, where the people get 3, 5,
Exactly.
7, however long it is, days off, you know, to go to funerals and to deal with a loss. And it shows the stigma's there because the boss never insinuated that he couldn't have that time. The company never insinuated that he was going to be ridiculed for it. But the general stigma around mental health, around male mental health, made him feel like
already
he
ingrained to
couldn't.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
because
he
that was
took.
ingrained from him growing up.
Mhm,
And that's basically what his parents taught him.
mhm.
And that's where it needs to change.
But I think this is
And
where.
the only,
Go on.
yeah, it's like the only way it is going to change is by more people standing up, doing chats like these, doing mental health support chats. Uh, because as it grows in momentum, more people are going to want to join and talk, and that's a good way to get the message out that people aren't alone.
Mhm. And I think it's what I absolutely love about this sort of these vlog series is because for anyone watching, we're both recording this for a very different reason, but it's very much on the same platform, the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Is because it's to approach the idea that we can talk about it, that we should talk about it, and that it's okay to talk about it. Um, but you are right, it picks up awareness, and that momentum building as people talk and it goes. But I think the big issue around that as well is you'll have people that'll jump on the bandwagon because it's a bandwagon, and they'll go, "Oh, this month
Yes.
I'm going to go and support it." And it's one of my favorite things ever, right? Corporations changing their logos for like the LGBT plus month, right? And then they change it, and it's all rainbows everywhere. And then they won't talk about it again for another year, and then rainbows are everywhere. And it's like, you're jumping on because you feel like you need to, you're jumping on the bandwagon where it's like, no, actually, you need to be invested in this to make change. And
Yep.
if you're not invested, talk to someone and let's see if we can. And if you're really against it, then if you're actually really against men speaking about their mental health, I have more than one word for you, to be honest. But
Obviously, like on that one, obviously I'm a LGBT owner of a tech company, and we don't change our logo or anything like that because all year round we're doing things in the background, and the same with mental health.
mhm.
Whether it be getting involved with local charities that are helping the local community, even the local food banks, things like that, all has an effect on people's mental health.
Yeah.
Getting those food parcels, getting the support from the People's Angels or other local charities, even if they're not specifically geared towards mental health support, getting those items or things or support they need makes a huge difference. And that positive impact does have a positive impact on someone's mental health as well.
It does, and but I think that's the wording there. The positive impact is having a positive impact. What we don't need in the space are people doing it for no reason. It's all good putting, that I support mental health. I think men should talk, blah blah. Putting all that online, it's really good. It puts the message out there. But when push comes to shove, you know, are you building awareness or are you tagging onto the bandwagon? Because building awareness means that you'll be happy to carry on that conversation and to speak up against it
Exactly.
as well. I mean, not that I've actively seen it at any point, but I've heard about it where people are trying to speak about their mental health and they will get shut down by someone else. If you're
Yes.
party to that conversation and you sit there and you laugh at that fact or you don't support in that fact or anything like that, actually, you know what? You're not helping the situation. All you're doing there is being. If I turn around to
Yeah.
you and was like, "This is how I'm feeling," and you laughed at me for it, and my mate laughed with you, that guy's no longer my friend. There's no support there. But actually, what I'd like to see, it's the same way, that being complacent is also just being part of it. Is that they'd go, actually, you need to not laugh. What's going on, sort of thing.
Oh,
Um, Anyway, but yeah, it's having that people have to not only be active in the
lost our
awareness,
train of thought there.
it's right, not be active in the awareness, but then also be active in the productivity of it to make change. Awareness is only half the battle.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
There's so many streamers and content creators out there that talk about the or mention this, but then when you try and contact them to help make a change, like we were talking about before the recording, you'll contact them and almost get shut down. And I contacted one streamer about it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll do it with you, but it's going to cost you this much." It's like, really?
It's
That you
something.
say you're advocating and you're trying to raise that, but then you're trying to charge to do a 30-minute recorded interview discussing mental health, which
And that's it,
goes completely away from,
having the conversation.
yeah,
Because the conversation for anyone, I mean, there are some, like, I think how strategic is the wrong word, some systematic issues around all of this.
yeah,
But especially people that have the voice. Content creation is only one side of it, celebrities is another.
yeah,
They're not called content creators, but they're influencers, they're another. TV shows, stuff like that.
yeah,
Everything has the power to make change. And the only way that you see capable change is by everyone and everything being able to do stuff. And I'm not talking about, I live and breathe this sort of stuff because of just, who I am and what I am. But, not everyone has to. I'm not expecting every
yeah,
person to fight everything all the time of every second, because no one can.
exactly.
I can happily say, no, there are a million things in the world that I could support, and I chose to support around mental health.
Yeah,
No, that was what I went with. And some people will go down the route and they'll support against, kids in care, or
yeah.
some people will go down the route and they might support cancer research, and there's nothing wrong with that.
So,
But people should be open to have the conversation if they're saying they're open to have the conversation.
yeah. So obviously there are, like, people go down different routes for supporting different things. Um, what was your decision or deciding factor to go down supporting for mental health?
Uh,
Obviously, 90% of the time,
yeah.
the reason you choose to go down a pathway is because it's something that affects us as a person.
Mhm. So my overall, like, take out a mental health perspective, my overall is mental health, testicular, and prostate cancer. That's kind of like my trio. Um,
Yep.
and it's all to do. Funny enough, like, people watching this, I don't know if I can't on my side of stuff. I can't remember if this has already been shown or not, but if not, you'll hear about this later anyway. Um, but I, from the age of probably 13, have suffered with my mental health. It kind of climaxed at 16, 17 ish, and then again at around 19. And then, I still deal with it every day. On
Yep.
the mental health side, I literally, I like to think, from the traumatic event, to not go into it too much, it changed my outlook on life. Every thought of mine is challenged by me, and it's a very withholding thing, because I'll be like, "Ooh, I might go and do this," and the moment I have that thought, there is already an opposing thought telling me why I can't do it. It's a bad idea that
Yep.
I do it. What could happen if I do it? I question memories that I've had. Like, I'll think about something I did yesterday, and in my head it'll be like, is that memory even real? Have I fabricated it? And all of this came from two different traumatic things that have echoed and ricocheted through my entire life. And I've been
Yep.
through therapy, I've been through help groups, I've been with charities, everything under the sun. And all of it has got me to where I am now, so that I'm able to
Yeah.
talk about it and able to share my story. But that's what got me invested. The testicular cancer side is family. It's ran in my family. We've had it in my family,
Yep.
and therefore it's close to me. But the mental health is something that quite literally hits home, and on occasions, like I say, it climaxed twice. In lieu of a better word, it's climaxed twice in my life, nearly a third time, and it everything I can do to make sure that doesn't happen to anyone else is what I'm going to do. Whether it's these vlogs, or whether or not it's picking up the phone at 3 a.m. or driving 2 hours down south to go and pick someone up, driving into town to get my mates after a bad night out, stuff like anything under the sun that I
Yeah.
can do to stop someone from getting to that position that I was, um, is why I
Yeah.
dove into it, essentially. What about you?
Make that difference.
Yeah.
So obviously we've discussed in the past our mental health. Mine's been all my life. With anxiety and depression. Severe depression, 3 attempts on my life, starting from 16, 17. The most recent one was 16 months ago, 18 months ago, when I decided to try and end my life in my car. Obviously, unsuccessfully. And then the doctors, it's always straight, oh, we're going to put you on tablets. And that's when they did offer mental health support. But the NHS is struggling that much with it and doesn't have enough support for that. It was 12 weeks. And that was as a priority case.
Mm-hmm.
That was 3 months before first getting to speak to somebody. And, that getting to speak to somebody is another thing. When your depression's bad, you don't want to do it. It's not you don't want to, it's you can't. Like you were saying, almost fighting in your head, are your thoughts real? You've got that constant battle, and it's not easy to turn around and ask for help. But again, that goes back to how everything's been ingrained to you.
Yeah. You saying that about waiting lists, I remember this was way back when, and it's only got worse since, so it's not a good thing. I remember going into a raid centre, and when I was discharged from there, they told me that I'd be contacted within the next 9 months for an appointment with a therapist. And I remember sitting there as a kid, I'm like 15, 16 maybe,
Yep.
being like, 9 months. Inside your head, you're like, 9 months is such a big scale of time. These days, 9 months seems to go by when I blink. 9 months doesn't even exist anymore. But as a kid, 9 months was forever. And it was like, so I've got to somehow limp on now for 9 months and make sure I don't get back here for 9 months, which, touch wood, I'm still going.
Yeah.
So evidently it worked.
Tried 9 months at my age, it was yesterday.
Yeah, 9 months was about a year ago, wasn't it? What's that?
Yesterday for me.
But yes, it's all very, but then that's the systematic bit. There, unfortunately, the one big thing that, like the increase in the awareness, the increase in people talking, is that numbers have changed across the board, and they haven't become bigger. Cases aren't increasing, nothing like that. It's just the real figure is slowly starting to show. And we've been prepared systematically to deal with, to make it simple, let's say we were dealing with 10 mental health, 10 people a day that needed support with their mental health. And that was on the old number. And then the awareness has come and everyone's talking about it. And now the new number's 100. Now suddenly we need tenfold the services that we did before, but we don't have tenfold the services we did before. And because of that, the people that are giving the services are getting anxious, overworked, depressed, and now they need support. And it's going into a very vile circle. But then I think this is where like community outreach comes in. We're both content creators. And my community is very aware, my Discord's very aware, the streaming page is very aware, everything like that. That if people need to talk, they can just talk. And people might answer, people might not answer, but they know they can drop the message in there to get it off their chest and it's gone. Or come into chat and be like, I have a really bad day, kind of rant in your chat, and I'll go, yeah, and they'll have 1,000,001 messages that I can't keep up with.
We actually do that quite often to each other.
Yeah, royally, yeah. Spam, especially for you, and I get at every platform saying hello. But that we do that sort of thing, and that we are that community space for a lot of people. And people then that can't seek help know that they have somewhere to go and talk about it. And it's not professional help, but getting something off your chest sometimes is as good as doing the whole thing in the moment.
If you can get it off your chest early enough, it can actually mitigate the need of that professional help.
Yeah.
If you've got, it's that first step that's difficult. And I think the way we act in each other's chats and some of our communities do, for somebody that's watching, it makes it easier for them to then be able to drop their own questions or comments in.
Yeah.
And that first step can make such a difference.
And I think it's key, that first step. And again, another kind of side topic, really. The first time is the most important ever.
Yep.
And, I'll preach this forever. If someone comes to you with something and it is their first time talking about it and it's out the blue, you hold such an important job there.
Yeah.
Because if that goes badly, they'll never do it again.
Exactly.
And it's not I'm not saying you have to take it all on and be the therapist, but listening in that moment, actively listening, not just kind of staring out at them, zoning out, going, yep, yeah, of course, yep, 100%. Do you want to get food? Like, having an active listening can really change that, because that person now will go, well, person X listened to me. Maybe I can tell person Y, and person Y listens to them, and they go, maybe I can tell so-and-so, and then suddenly they're talking about it to everyone. And the moment you start
even
talking
the family
to everyone,
and things like that.
Yeah. And then you
That's
take
one
control
of the
of your own
hardest
narrative.
to talk to.
Family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I was lucky actually in the early stages. When I had no more choice but to talk about it, I was able to go to my family and I felt quite safe. And weirdly, over the years, I've actually wanted to do it less and less so, not because of anything they've done, but because I don't want to now bother them with it, which is a whole nother thing, but I know that not everyone's family experience is like that. Some people do come out to their family and talk about this sort of stuff, and it just doesn't go well at all.
Yeah, and you do see it. Well, you see it in the news almost on a weekly basis, where somebody's not being able to talk, whether it be a kid, a teenager, an adult, and it seems to be getting worse, especially at the moment with, we've just gone through COVID and lockdowns and restrictions. Then it went straight into a war with Ukraine. And then it's sort of like they're saying, oh, what do you mean it can't get anywhere? It's here, hold my coffee. And now you got the monkeypox thing going round.
Mm-hmm.
What was another one in London at the moment where there's polio?
Yeah. One of the first
and
few
then
cases.
You've got the cost of living crisis.
Yeah. All of this
which
at once
is all putting more and more pressure on. The last 3 years have been absolute hell for people.
Mm-hmm.
And really damaging for them.
But then you have people, that inside that situation, it's really damaging for them. And then they still feel like they can't talk about it. And they're sitting at home, slowly, trying to figure it out inside like a room where they're not putting the lights on because cost of living's going up, and they might not have eaten in the past day, and they're sitting there wondering how they're going to make do. But they won't tell anyone about it, and they'll get up and go to work tomorrow. And they'll do a day at work, and I'll get home, and I'll do a day at work. And then eventually they go...
Just grinds away at you.
And then suddenly you meet your line. And, and that's the dangerous point. Because whenever you hit that line, because there's realistically, you're either going to stay on one side or step over to the other. And
once that band snaps, it's...
But a chat, not saying it can solve your life problems, not at all, but it can change perspective. And it can give you a glimpse of hope. And I think that's what a lot of people need in these times, is a glimpse of hope.
Exactly.
Just
that little glimmer, and it can make such a difference.
Especially on the male mental health sort of side. Right now, I've had chats with people who are dads, who are, who have families and wives and other partners. And you speak to them, you go to the pub and you chat with them, and they're like, I'm so glad I can talk to you guys about this, because I can't talk to my wife because I don't want her to know that I'm struggling in this time when everything's going through, because I've got to provide. I know I've got to provide, and I've got to get a better paid job, and I've got to do this. And you're like, I'm happy that at that point in time, they know they can speak to me. They know we can go to the pub and just have it out.
Yep.
They can tell me the worst thing that's happening in their life, and I'll tell them, I'll listen, and I'll answer questions if they want me to, and I'll provide advice if they want me to. Yeah. But it's a shame that those same people are sitting there going, I can't talk to my wife, my family, nothing like that, because I need to be the strong man in this situation where the literal world feels like it's dying around us.
Yeah, so in there, I'm going to mention a group.
Mhm.
So it's obviously they've got a website. They're on Facebook as well, which is Andy's Man's Club, which meet once a week.
Mhm.
And it's a male-only mental health support group, and they meet up. It could be at a pub for a few beers, at a restaurant. Some of them go out and do like walking and hiking and take the pets, and it obviously it's purely for men's mental health, but the meet up as a group of mates. Because everybody has some form of mental health or needs some form of mental health support there, it works really, really well. And they do have groups up and down the country. I certainly know on when my recording for this goes out, there will be a link in the description to them, but they're certainly worth checking out.
There will also
An
be a
amazing
link in mine for
Well, I know
this.
you know Andy's Man's Club as well.
I do.
We've discussed it off stream and
Yeah. And but, you know, but
in
I think
our gaming times.
and they're also really key. And you'll also find that depending where you are, for example, Manchester have one called Directions for Men, and
Yep.
that is like Andy's Man Club, but it's specifically Manchester, and they'll be everywhere. They will literally be all over the UK, and every other potentially other countries as well. So if you are in a need to find someone to talk, you can go and find them, or genuinely, right, go and find yourself a content creator. We exist, and the communities exist. And like I say, we might not be able to solve your life problem, but we might be able to give you the glimpse of relief throughout all of it. And sometimes that little bit of weight off your shoulders, that little bit of taking that strain is going to be the difference between tomorrow and today.
And with that as well, you're going to find that us or our communities, and our Discord members or people that are watching the stream, that there's going to be somebody there that has been through either the same or something similar and has felt the same way as you, and it's a way of showing that you can get through it.
Yeah.
No matter how dark it looks, how deep that well is you're in, because we all experience and deal with mental health in different ways. So some people see it as a well or a tunnel or a darkness. That talking with the content creator communities, and his club, all the different mental health clubs there are out there, will help you understand that there is a light at the end of that tunnel, no matter how dark you think it is. And it's, to start with, you won't want to listen.
Yeah.
Because those negative thoughts are going to be too much to actually deal with. And it's a case of hoping that people can help and listen before that band breaks, before that safety net. Because once it goes, it's very, very difficult to get out of.
Yeah. It's like a wormhole, isn't it? It sucks in absolutely everything. Even the good stuff in your life becomes overshadowed. Yep. And that's when you start thinking that there's no light at the end of the tunnel, because everything is being absorbed by this darkness, when actually there is light and it was there.
Yep.
But then it's only a step away at any point. One of my favorite quotes ever that I've heard is that, you don't have to figure out like 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. Just have to figure out tomorrow. That's it. One day at a time. Do the next day. Do the next. If you get through the next day, you have won. And that's all you need to do.
Even closer, getting through today.
Yeah.
If you make it to tomorrow, and you're already a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And it really is that one step at a time.
This is a chat that people need to have everywhere. And if you're watching this, if you're sitting here watching this and you are either one of the people There could be a range here, right? You're a person that wants to talk about it. You're a person that needs to talk about it. You're a person that's happy to listen. You're a person that, you know, wants to do something like this and get out there. You're a person that wants to make awareness, anything, right? The most basic thing you can do is pick up your phone right now, look at someone that you haven't spoken to in a while, an old mate, message them, and just go, how we doing? Haven't spoken to you in a while. What's going on with your life? And I cannot tell you the difference that can make to someone who is in the pits of their own hell.
Exactly.
At all.
Just that random contact.
Yeah. It's a bit of care.
And yeah, and obviously there are things like we're doing now that you can do to help as well.
Yeah.
If you are wanting to help us get the message out, all you need to do is send us a message.
Yeah.
Either the King D42 over on Facebook. You've got the Tech Surgeon on most platforms. You can send us a message. Yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm think of nightmares.
You open your wardrobe and you're like, hello. Here comes the tech.
Obviously, you can.
You can message it either of us, and you know, being part of these projects. And then you know, you can be the person driving the conversation. You don't even need to be part of these projects. You might go, I want to set up my own. I want to get a few mates on a podcast. Go do that. Right? You might think, I want to get a few mates down the pub and chat about it. Go do that. You might want to go and do football. Go do that. Right? Whatever you want to do.
I don't do running.
The only thing, neither do I, but here we are. You know, you're the only person stopping you from doing something. No one, and if anyone tries to shoot you down, just ignore them. Get rid of them. They're not worth your time. That you can make the difference. That we all can.
Exactly.
You.
And everybody out there.
Yeah. Should we round off on that note?
I think we've about covered everything that we set out to do for this recording.
I'll pass you a thank you then, Tech. Thank you very much for this lovely recording.
You're more than welcome, and thank you for joining. And it's obviously going to be going out as different events. For the King D, you're going to be doing it for
the Movember Foundation. So all of mine will come out whenever you're watching this, the 20th of November. This video for me will go live on YouTube, Facebook, anywhere that I can post it, really. And for yourself, Tech, this is
part of our series on talking with content creators about mental health within the gaming and content creation community, and how we can make a positive change, which goes out at the end of this week. The YouTube version will be out, and then the podcast version will probably be out later this evening.
Wicked. So guys, if you're watching this in November, go check that out back then, because that'll be in the past for you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh. And yeah, apart from that, I'll see you all later, I guess.
No problem. I'll see you on stream a little bit later.
See you later, guys. Goodbye. Bye. Thank you for watching that You're Alright blog. It's been a phenomenal journey that we've been on to get this far, and we're hoping that it will long outlive the vlog series. But it's not over there. There is more to be done, and there is a donation link to the Movember charity inside the description. If you can donate, please do consider it, or even if you can just spread that link far and wide to get as many people to donate as possible, that's also fantastic. We are actively making a change, and you're part of that. So thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.